The State House. Our crews at the time were across the street at the Huntington Center. We also understand that at least a dumpster was set on fire not far from the Supreme Court building. That's about a block away from the video that you were looking at right now. Protesters started gathering just before 8 o'clock this evening. It's all in response to the death of George Floyd, who died in police custody earlier this week in Minneapolis after an officer knelt on his neck. We know that has sparked protests across the country tonight. In Minneapolis, in fact, there was a large fire underway. We were told it might be a precinct building. Now, our Eric Halperin has been downtown for several hours since this all started, and we're going to join him again live. Eric, I know you've had to change positions a few times because of the dangerous situation down there. Are they asking the crowd or demanding that the crowd disperse at this hour?
Colleen, they are. This SWAT truck down here got here about 15 minutes ago, and since that pulled up, you could hear over the loudspeaker police declaring this an emergency situation, telling people to leave. Now, police have since moved down State Street a little bit. They came and got their shields, got those, and then moved down State Street. You were talking about some of the damage here along High Street. Trash cans all over the place have been toppled by protesters, and I'm just going to walk down High Street a little bit here. You can see Columbus Division of Police. They have one of their mobile van trucks here, and if we pan back over to the street bill, you can see where more trash has been tipped over, trash cans thrown. At one point, one of the demonstrators actually threw a trash can at the police. If you look down there towards State and Broad, that's where all this had started. They had been marching around downtown tonight peacefully, and then they stopped at that intersection up there and stayed there for about an hour and a half, chanting things like "I can't breathe," chanting George Floyd's name, and it was staying peaceful for a while. But then around 9:45, some sort of scuffle broke out. Some sort of spray was used by the police department after there were several things thrown at them, and since then it has become more and more destructive. The protesters, if you look over there at the State House, that's the police now guarding the State House. You'd mentioned after they left the intersection, a bunch of the protesters ran towards the State House and started breaking some of those windows like you were talking about. And if we look down to the left, and I don't know, Bill, if you can zoom in to that Coda bus station, that is the bus stop that was also damaged around here. It has been quieter for about 10 minutes or so as police have been telling people to leave. The crowd has dispersed more, but because it's dispersed, it is tough to tell if it's actually gone down in size or if they are more spread out. Colleen?
Eric, we know that this was all sparked by the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis, and we know there are cities around the country that are doing much the same thing tonight, dealing with protesters who are angry about these police custody killings. But I've also heard that possibly there were some Columbus people who were roughed up last night and that there are videos circulating of that. No confirmation of any of that, but did any of that come up from the protesters that you were able to talk to tonight?
Well, there was a protest more about that situation you're talking about over at Livingston and Lockbourne earlier tonight. We were there for about an hour and it was totally peaceful. We didn't see anything out of the ordinary happen there, just a lot of chanting. We came over here and we haven't heard talk about that protest. The talk here has been surrounded about George Floyd more so.
Yeah, and now I can see that the crowd certainly has lessened behind you. Is that because they went away on their own or because of efforts by the police to make them go home tonight?
Well, if you look down where all those police lights are, that's where the SWAT truck is, and that's where more of the protesters are gathered. They went down State Street and police had followed them down there telling them to leave. Police asked us not to be in that area, which is why we're over here.
All right, and we appreciate, Eric, that you've been there. I know there was, you said there was a spray. Was it tear gas? Because at one time you were coughing earlier tonight. We were wondering if you got a sense that they were being gassed.
I don't know if it was tear gas or mace. I don't know exactly what it was, but they have been sprayed several times throughout the night, and we have gotten caught up in that. So you are right, and some of our video that Bill has captured tonight shows some of that happening as well.
All right, and I know we're going to be putting more of that online overnight. Eric, you and Bill need to stay safe down there. Thank you for keeping us up to date. And we have crews that will be there through the night as well. And we thank you for being with us. We want to remind you this situation is right at Broad and High in front of the State House. We know that windows were broken out of the State House, shattered glass at one of the bus stops right at the corner of Broad and High. Tune in tomorrow morning, NBC4 Today, and follow online at NBC4i.com. We will stay on top of this situation. Have a great night.